Hello, everyone. Welcome to the APTER Chat. This is Bill Apter, and rather than being down in Apter's Alley, we're in the old living room tonight. You remember, some of you older fans, how Dean Martin used to just go, "Well, I'm gonna go sit on the couch," and he would sing. But I'm not gonna sing today. We're going all the way to Mexico. Pardon me, Mr. Trump. And Sam Elias, welcome to the Apter Chat.
Thank you for having me, my friend. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time. I've been in contact with you, but we haven't really connected.
Yeah, we haven't been able to do that due to some technical issues, but we finally hooked up. And now we want to, a lot of fans have not heard about you or who you are. And so early on in here, before we go into your entire background, you're the brother of WWE's Corey Graves.
Exactly. He's actually my coach. He's the one that taught me how to wrestle back when he was on the independents. My dad was a promoter in the Pittsburgh area, so he had a wrestling school for just a couple months, a couple years actually. And my brother was the one that was able to train me. And luck be have it, I ended up in the developmental area, and we kind of separated for a few years. And now, it's he's still kind of my coach through social media, and we speak every day on the phone. It's just we stay connected, and he's keeping track of my career and kind of giving me the best career decisions, if you will.
Yeah. Now, what made you want to become a professional wrestler or a sports entertainer, as some people call it?
Uh, it has been my entire life as long as I can remember.
So,
My
who
dad was
was?
actually
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
my father was actually a promoter back in the early 90s. And I say the term promoter, and I don't mean he owned an indie wrestling company and promoted events. This is back when a promoter actually would buy the event from the booking office,
Okay.
and he would promote it. He was a volunteer fire chief, so he used to buy fundraisers from the booking office and promote these large events just with Pittsburgh independent talent. Charlie Fulton used to be on a bunch of the events.
Sure.
Guys like Lord Zoltan. I'm sure you know the old school independents that are famous in the Northeast. So these events started when I was about 2 or 3 years old, and I never really wanted to be a wrestler. I knew I was going to be a wrestler, if that makes sense. It was just what I
Okay.
did. It was my entire life. It was everything about me.
So, who was the first guy you became a huge fan of that helped spurn you on to want to do more?
It was really, as weird as it sounds, I was so infatuated with WCW and WWF as a kid. When ECW came around in '97, it blew my mind. Growing up in Pittsburgh, we were really lucky because we were one of the hot ECW towns in about '97, '98. So my dad used to take me and my brother, and I was, as an 8-year-old kid in an ECW environment, I was by far the youngest kid, but it blew my mind. And I remember they used to sell a lot of the videotapes at RF Video, I think it was, used to
Yes,
sell the
yeah.
tapes at
RF
ECW.
Video, he still does. A great company.
I remember seeing Hayabusa at the tape table, and it
Right.
blew my mind. I needed to see more Japanese wrestling. So again, I'm a 7 or 8 year old kid, and I had videotapes of Japanese wrestling. And Hayabusa was the first one that really freaked me out. But from there, you see Sasuke and Liger. Then you get into Muda and Shono and
Sure.
Kabashi, and now I'm the biggest Tenryu fan you'll ever meet.
Wow. So your style was inspired by the Japanese strong style.
In a way, I guess. I'm a real big fan of classic '80s wrestling. I feel like everything in the '80s and '90s is much better than what's going on today. And I like having my own unique style, and I really like I like the Terry Funks and the Ric Flairs, because what's old is new again. I'm
Yeah.
not one of these guys that I don't see something on a video and say, hey, I'm going to do that. I just studied the entire game and took a little bit from here, a little bit from there. And I can honestly say I think I have a pretty unique style, especially for today.
Okay. So now, tell us the places you've worked and what brought you to where you are currently, which is Mexico.
Yeah, well, I got really lucky. I was 21 years old and I got signed to a developmental contract at WWE.
Yeah.
And this is back when they had FCW in Tampa.
What name did you work
So,
under at that? What name did you work under?
Buddy Stetcher. Buddy Stetcher. It was the worst name ever. It was just an office creation. And hindsight being 2020, I think it was a bit of a rib. So,
Joe
I'm just
Stetcher, the
young.
great old time champion there.
That's it. Well, I wanted to be old school, and I think they kind of had a laugh with it. Said, okay, you
Yeah,
want to be old
you were a
school? We'll
little
give you
Buddy
the old.
Rogers and a little Joe Stetcher.
Yeah, exactly. So I did my best. I ended up with a surgery, and I'm sure you've talked to enough people that the developmental environment is a shark tank.
Sure.
At 21 years old, I don't think there's very many people that can thrive in that environment. So needless to say, 11 months later, I had a knee surgery and ended up getting kicked in the butt out the door.
Okay.
But
But it was a good experience, right? Just to
oh,
be there.
of course,
Yeah.
and it opened my eyes on the way the business really works. Luckily, while I was there, I became really good friends with William Regal. I used to pick him up from the airport on every Wednesday when he'd come for television, or maybe
By
Thursday.
the way, when you talk about really classic wrestling, I mean, there's no one better.
Well, that's how we ended up becoming good friends, because I picked him up on a Thursday just randomly. Tom Pritchard said, "Hey, I need you to pick up Regal." I picked him up, and he's I'm sure if you're friends with him, he's very very methodical, very quiet, soft spoken. He said to me, "Hey, while you're here, use this time wisely. Ask me questions." I think he's used to having other developmental guys ask him how to succeed in WWE. I'm saying, tell me about CWA, Otto Vance. What was it like working with Colonel Brody? What was it like working for All Star in the 80s? And I kind of surprised him a bit. It was, whoa, these aren't the questions I normally get from these developmental guys. And you're only 21? It kind of like, really, I think from then he realized the passion I have.
Yeah.
So luckily enough, when I got released, I stayed in contact with him, and he hooked me up with Brian Dixon, who's all-star wrestling promoter in the UK for 45 years. Yeah. Him and another really good friend of mine, Rampage Brown. He was working for All-Star before. He helped me get in the door as well. So literally, I think 3 weeks after I got released from WWE, I ended up full-time for All-Star in the UK.
That's great. That's great. I've been there, and Brian Dixon is still he's just amazing, absolutely amazing. So you went from the United Kingdom to where?
Well, I actually stayed in the UK for about, it's been 4.5 years. I was working at I truly believe All-Star is about the last wrestling territory on earth, because we're doing a loop. You do the same towns twice a week.
Sure.
And you got to switch it up. It's terrible, because our guys, in my opinion, are some of the best wrestlers on the planet, and they're supremely underrated because All-Star doesn't do social media. We don't do the Facebook. We don't do the Twitter. So there's these promotions in the UK like Revolution Pro and Southside. They're great companies, but they're not as professional and full-time like we are. We have a guy, James Mason, that in my opinion is on the level of Dean Malenko.
Yeah.
This guy's fantastic, but because we don't do the online promotion, these guys aren't recognized like they deserve to be.
What was your biggest home run there?
I was very fortunate to become the first ever American to win the British Heavyweight Championship, which is, it was vacant at the time, but this is the same title that Fit Finlay had and Dave Taylor and Tony St. Clair. So it reaches back to 1978, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's actually, the most prestigious title in all of Europe, one of the oldest ones. That was a very cool accomplishment.
What name were you working under at that point?
Sam Adonis, which is actually funny. My first day in All-Star, Dixon asked me, what would you like, what's your name? I said, Sam Elias. He goes, no, you're Sam Adonis. Everybody has their Brian Dixon impression. So he gave me that name, and it stuck. And, I've done a ton of tours of Europe. I don't know if you know Chris the Bambi Killer Raber.
I certainly do.
He's got some really good events in Austria.
I know everybody.
Yeah, Christian Eckstein too. EWP in Hanover.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite places on the planet, because it's the tail end of CWA. It's all the old boys from CWA putting on one event every couple months.
Sure.
But to me, it's like the last real wrestling town. You can go out and work a headlock for 20 minutes, and the fans appreciate it. They understand the art. it's like just like WCW 1993. The people are eating it up. So I
That's
really love
great. That's great.
Germany. I love all my experience in Europe.
That's great. So from there, was that how did you get to Mexico?
Well, I've had so many connections in Mexico for years. All Stars are a revolving door of talent from Japan, Mexico, Puerto Rico, USA. Everywhere comes to All Star. So I've always been working with these guys and made a bunch of friends down here. Angelico from AAA is a very good friend of mine. There's a wrestler, Supernova, down here.
Familiar with him?
They were always inviting me to Mexico. Said, "Dude, you need to come here. It's going to be big for you." So I was planning on coming 3 years ago, and I ended up getting injured. And then I planned on coming last year, and my buddy's house fell through where I was supposed to stay.
Oh,
So timing being a problem, but at the same time, it's worked out because now I have more experience. So I ended up getting here about 6 weeks ago, and everything has skyrocketed
which
since.
promotion?
Yeah, I'm with CMLL
Yeah.
now.
Okay. So
It's
we get to see
fantastic.
you here in the States on cable then too.
Yeah, on cable here, and then every Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday afternoons, there's a live stream on their website.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic now. It's just a change of scenery, and my idea is, there's no more journeymen in wrestling. There's no more people that work the territory here, a territory there, and got good. Wrestling's missing the Dean Malenkos and the Chris Benoits and the Jerichos that have that
Yeah.
experience. I want to be, I still want to have a cross the finish line back with WWE, but it's nice to have the 5 years experience in British wrestling. I'd like to spend a couple years down here and learn the Mexican style. I want to get back there. I want to end up in Japan. I want to be the guy that if I do get the opportunity to return to WWE, that, oh my God, that guy is the guy. That's what I want to be.
Tell me some of the people you've wrestled in the past few weeks at CMLL.
I've been very fortunate because the opportunity I got was based on their pay-per-view they just did. It was the Grand Prix. It's Mexico against the rest of the world.
Right.
I arrived to my first event and they said, "Hey, we want you for the pay-per-view as the USA representative." Well, I've really taken a grasp to Spanish, so I've been speaking very well down here. We did our first interview, and the media department absolutely adores me because I was able to do the interviews for television, radio, and newspapers in Spanish.
So,
So,
we got to stop you. Say something in Spanish about CMLL.
me llamo Sam Adonis, yo soy el nuevo rudo de las chicas en el Consejo Mundial. Me gusta la oportunidad aquí en México. Me gusta la oportunidad con la empresa mejor Consejo Mundial de Lucha Libre.
You hear that? All right. That's great.
But it's been very awesome because they've really pushed forward, and the media, the newspapers, and everybody down here, they're excited to have a big new gringo that can speak Spanish.
A gringo
So
who can
because
speak Spanish. I love it. The
because of
title of
this,
a book.
that's perfect, isn't it? That could be the title of this interview.
Yeah.
But because of that, everything's fast forwarded, and I've been in like a main event role already. So I've been lucky enough to work with Rush, who's their top guy right now, their top heel.
Yep.
Ultimo Guerrero, Cibernetico, who my first match was against, he was my tag partner. Atlantis
Yep.
was my first match in Arena, Mexico. And the Haku's sons, Tangaroa and Tamatanga, they've been down here for this tournament as well. I've been teaming with them and Michael Elgin. So, I mean, it's awesome because, especially being here now, you do realize it is a major league promotion. It's full time.
Absolutely.
It's the big time.
What I like about what you're telling me though is that, and it's very refreshing that you're doing this the old school way. You're going to places that run shows. You're going to territories, and as much as WWE is the game, etc. Nothing to do with Triple H there, but it is the game. You're still in that old school mindset of you gotta do the territories and learn the correct way before you can go up to their platform.
The sad thing is there's no territories left in the United States.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think this really hurts the game in general because most wrestlers now started off as fans, and they get into the business because of the passion for wrestling. I think wrestling needs a lot of the guys that have the business mind. Years ago, maybe you have a family, 3 or 4 kids, and you work at the steel mill. Then you get laid off, but you're 6'10", 380 pounds.
Hmm.
Well, you go become a wrestler,
Right.
and when you have this mindset to make money for your family, you're going to approach wrestling a lot differently than you would if you love the game. So this is why now, most wrestling is kind of the same. It seems like nobody stands out. Nobody thinks, how do I make money? How do I sell tickets? They think, oh, I want to do this move. I saw this spot, and it's really hurting the game. We have too many new Chris Jerichos and Shawn Michaels. We don't have enough Bam Bam Bigelows or one man gangs.
Yeah, yeah. If you also you got to be an original. I tell people when they come to me, new wrestlers that have just come out of either wrestling schools or whatever. Man, I want to be like Rey Mysterio. Said no. Said he's great. You're not Rey Mysterio. You got to be you. Find something, a mixture of the guys that you admire, and put together your own unique personality.
Exactly. It's like a stew, I always say. I've been lucky enough. I don't know why, but people think I have enough experience to do some of these seminars, and that's what I tell everybody. If you want to make it, I'd say make it like a stew. You need to have a little bit of Rick Rude sprinkled in with some Ricky Steamboat, add some Ox Baker, and get a little bit of Johnny Valentine. Don't settle for, hey, I liked Chris Benoit in 1993. I want to be like that.
Yeah,
So that's a
totally
big problem
understood.
a lot of guys have.
Where can fans find you on social media?
My Twitter handle is at Sam Elias 89, or you just Google me. You'll find me on there, and Instagram is the same at Sam Elias 89, or in Spanish at Sam Elias 89. So, in case we have any Spanish listeners out
All
there.
right. Now, as you know, since this is a video interview, I always end pointing and going, I'll see you at the matches. So I need you to do that, though, in Latino.
I'll see you where?
I'll see you at the matches, and you have to point to the camera.
Yo ver tú en las luchas.